And too many greens powders make really wild and ridiculous claims that promise to help you decrease bloat, lose weight, detox your body, and so many things that just aren't true. In today's video, I want to teach you how to identify whether a greens powder is a good one or a not so good one, and what ingredients you can look out for. Now keep in mind, you do not have to take a greens powder, and I will always say that eating whole vegetables and fruit is the best way to go, but if for some reason you feel that taking a greens powder is going to help you in your health, then I'd rather teach you the ways that you can at least pick a good one. And now before we start, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who I am, my name is Katey. I am a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer, and my goal is to help you achieve good nutrition, fitness, and wellness in an affordable and achievable way. If you're new, I would love for you to do me a solid and subscribe to my channel. When you subscribe, it really helps support the growth of my channel and help me reach more people like you. I've actually done a review on greens powders before, and I discussed the pros and cons of taking them. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave it in the description box below. All right, so let's dive in. First, we'll look at the fiber content of a greens powder. Most greens powders do not contain enough fiber. I rarely see one that does. If you can, I would ideally try to find a greens powder that has 3 grams of fiber or more. Most usually contain about 1 gram, sometimes if you're lucky 2, so if you're only able to find one that is 2 grams, at least that's better than nothing. The reason why I think it's really important to find a greens powder with adequate fiber is because if we're trying to make a product that mimics whole vegetables and fruit, it should really contain the same ingredients. When we eat vegetables and fruit in its whole form, it contains quite a bit of fiber. And fiber is so important for our health, and so I would hope that a greens powder that is trying to copy whole vegetables and fruit would contain fiber. The only time I would recommend having a greens powder with a lower fiber content is if your healthcare professional has specifically advised you to lower your fiber intake for various reasons, such as maybe you have some gut issues going on or you have a chronic disease. But in most cases, people actually need more fiber than less. Now, the best way you can think of fiber is like lifting weights before your gut. It's my favorite analogy. And since social media is so obsessed with decreasing bloating and improving gut health, if we're not talking about fiber, then you're missing out on the OG of gut health. Now, fiber is important for so many functions, and that's why I like the analogy of it being like a weight before your gut. It helps to strengthen the lining of your intestine, allowing it to function a lot better. It also helps you form healthy stools, which can help clean out your intestines, and it helps to clean out any extra byproducts and waste that could be sitting around in your gut. For example, fiber is really important for clearing out any excess cholesterol and blood sugar. While I don't love this term, you can sort of think of fiber as a natural detoxer. Yes, our body actually does have its own natural detoxification system, and our gut is heavily involved in that. When we think of fiber, think of it as moving along your intestine, picking up any byproducts, any waste, and helping you eliminate them from your body. On top of that, fiber acts as a really good prebiotic. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term probiotic before, but a prebiotic is the food for beneficial bacteria in our gut. And when these bacteria have enough food, they're able to grow and replicate and help create a healthy gut microbiome. And when we have a really good gut microbiome, this has been shown in research to help support good heart health, good immune system, good brain health, and many other functions in the body. The thing about our gut is that it actually is connected to all of the different systems in our body. So having a good gut is very important for other functions in our body. And that's why I really want you to have fiber in a greens powder. The next thing you should look for is third-party testing. Simply put, third-party testing helps ensure that what is on the label is actually in the product. And it helps ensure that the product is free of any potential contaminants, and the amount that's actually listed is what you're getting. And it helps to ensure the overall quality of the product. Now, if you're trying to determine whether or not the product has third-party testing, most companies will proudly list it on their label, so that is the first spot to look. If you can't find it there, you can always go to their website. If you can't find it after that, they probably don't have third-party testing. The third thing you can look for is a variety of different vegetables and fruit. If you're gonna take a greens powder, I hope it would have a lot of different vegetables and fruit in it, because otherwise, what's the point? Most greens powders do a pretty good job at including a variety of different vegetables and fruit. Though, like I mentioned in my other video, I do question if they contain enough of the ingredients to actually provide benefit to the body. And while they're technically called greens powders, a lot of them actually contain vegetables and fruit that aren't green, and they're different colors. And I really like to see this variety of different colors because it helps to ensure that you're getting different phytonutrients in your diet. This is why you've probably heard before that you should eat the rainbow when it comes to vegetables and fruit. Each color actually has different phytonutrients that benefit our health in different ways. They act as antioxidants, they have anti-inflammatory properties, and they have specific properties that help to improve our overall health. With that being said, even though you might find a greens powder with a lot of variety, different colors, they still may not be as potent if you were to have whole vegetables and fruit. The next thing you can look for is probiotics. Now, while I will say I think it's probably best that you just take a probiotic supplement or eat foods high in probiotics, if you do want to have probiotics added to your greens powders, most greens powders do have some added. And if that's something that interests you, the best thing you can look for is a product that has a variety of different strains, so it doesn't just have one, but it has many different strains listed. And I would also recommend that the product has a large number of probiotics, and you can tell how many probiotics a product has by looking at the CFU count, which stands for colony forming units. For example, you may see on a greens powder that it has 1 billion CFUs. Now, while a billion does sound like a lot, in the world of probiotics, that actually isn't that much. At this point in time, we don't really have an exact number of CFUs that a product should have, especially a greens powder, but I still would say anything with 5 billion or higher is at least a good starting point. Now, keep in mind that greens powders are not a probiotic supplement, so I don't expect them to have the same amount as an actual individual probiotic supplement would. And again, the best thing you can do is either eat foods that are really high in probiotics, and there are many different examples such as kimchi, sauerkraut, natto, kefir, and probiotic yogurts, just to name a few. Or you can also take a probiotic supplement. Again, I would recommend one with a high CFU count and one that has multiple strains. At this point in time, that's what the research supports. But if you're not even really concerned about probiotics, then I would probably let this one slide and you don't even need to pay attention to that on the label. The next thing to look for is that the company is not making false claims. While technically this isn't an ingredient, I think that if you're going to be purchasing from a company, they should be as honest and transparent as possible. And too many greens powders make really wild and ridiculous claims that promise to help you decrease bloat, lose weight, detox your body, and so many things that just aren't true. My favorite companies are those that really just are honest about what greens powders are. An easy and convenient way to get in some extra vitamins and minerals into your diet, but also recommend having whole vegetables and fruit as your main source. And yes, you can find some greens powders that will promote this. The sixth thing you can look for is making sure that the company is not going overboard with vitamins and minerals. I would say a lot of greens powders, and really most supplements in general, go way overboard with the amount of vitamins and minerals added into their products. Sometimes you'll see 1000%, 2000%, even I've seen 20,000% the recommended daily allowance in their product. And for the average person, this is completely unnecessary and can potentially be harmful. Yes, some people do have deficiencies and require what's called a mega dose, so something that goes way beyond what most people need in a day. But if that were the case for you, I really think it's important that you work with a healthcare professional so that they can monitor this, because vitamins and minerals are not completely safe. They do have side effects when taken in excessive amounts. Most often I see B vitamins as the main vitamin that is added in excess, and because this is water soluble, most of the time you're able to just pee it out and it just gets excreted from the body. That being said, when we have too many vitamins or minerals, they actually can potentially be harmful, and in some cases can increase your risk of cancer. They may also interact negatively with certain medications or other supplements you're taking, and they may actually have unwanted side effects. The main issue I find with greens powders is because they have so many ingredients, some products have upwards of 75 ingredients added, it can actually be really difficult to determine what is actually causing that side effect. So if you're looking for a greens powder and you're noticing that a lot of the vitamins and minerals added are upwards of 1000% what the daily recommendation is, I would probably pass or at least consult your healthcare provider first. The other thing you should look for is price. Now, this is totally personal to you and your budget. One person can view one thing as expensive and another person can view that as being cheap. It's really dependent on the person and their circumstances. Generally speaking, I would say most greens powders are overpriced, and for what you're getting, I don't necessarily think that they're worth it for most people. I would say for the most part, they're usually about $40 to $50 US for a 30-day supply. Now, if you're in Canada like I am, it actually is a lot more, so it can be quite expensive. Now, I do want to highlight the fact that some companies are a bit more expensive because they use higher quality ingredients and they also put more research into their products. So a good example would be Athletic Greens or AG1. I would say overall that the company does do a good job at doing research and using quality ingredients, and their price end tends to be a little bit higher as a result. But regardless of the greens powder and its price, I only want you to purchase a greens powder if you want to, that is within your means and that you can actually reasonably afford, because you don't actually need to buy a greens powder. So I would only buy it if you can actually afford it and it makes sense for you. And finally, I do want to list some other factors that you might want to look out for when purchasing a greens powder. Some products do have extra ingredients added that may help with overall health, although we have limited research at this time. They may have adaptogens, so for example, ashwagandha, holy basil, lion's mane, ingredients like that. And basically what adaptogens do is they help to regulate the body's stress response and help to manage cortisol levels. That being said, because the amount actually varies from greens powder to greens powder, this is not the first thing that I would look for, and it really is just an added bonus if you want it. And the other thing to keep in mind is that a lot of greens powders have sweeteners added to them. I do find a lot of them have added artificial sweeteners or natural sweetener. And depending on your preference, maybe you don't care at all, but if you are trying to monitor that in your diet as well, make sure you do read the ingredient label, because a lot of the time they're in very small print and you may not even notice them. One thing you can look for is anything that ends in OL is typically a sugar alcohol. Now, sugar alcohols are another way of sweetening products, but some people do experience stomach upset from them. So if that is you, you might want to limit your intake or find a product that doesn't have it. Examples of natural sweeteners include stevia, you may see steviol as well, and monk fruit. And examples of artificial sweeteners would include sucralose, aspartame, ACE-K, and saccharin. And you may also find more natural sources of sugar. So for example, beet sugar or cane sugar, and yes, at the end of the day, they both turn into sugar. You may see molasses, you may see honey, or other types of sugars added. Keep in mind, a lot of people don't like the taste of greens powders, so usually they add these sweeteners for a reason. So it's not nefarious or anything that they're trying to do to decrease the quality of the product. It's usually to actually improve the taste and let people actually like it. But that's just something to keep in mind if that's important to you. When it comes to taking a greens powder, ultimately the choice is yours. I personally do not take a greens powder, and I don't know if I ever will. My personal choice is to mostly have whole vegetables and fruit, because I think this is the best way to obtain good nutrition, and I would rather spend my money on actual food than on supplements that I don't necessarily need. But if you feel that you could benefit from a greens powder, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't take them or start dissing all of the greens powders out there. The only thing I would just recommend is making sure that you're an informed consumer, that you take all of the things that I mentioned in this video into mind and consideration when you're looking at greens powders. And if you are on any medications, other supplements, or you have a medical condition, it might not be a terrible idea to refer to your healthcare provider just to make sure that the ingredients in the product are okay for you. And that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions about greens powders, or if you have any ideas for further videos. I would love to know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.